I do believe we have a quorum, so I will begin. Welcome to the December meeting of APPV. We are meeting a week early at the request of SAC and College Council, as they wanted to get a meeting in before the end of the semester, and they wanted us to have a meeting in case we had any programs that needed to be passed up so that they could consider those programs and hopefully get them approved before the end of this fall semester. And we do have a couple of programs on the agenda today, but first thing is to look at the agenda and see if anybody has any edits, changes, or anything else that needs to be done with our current agenda. Hearing no edits, it's assumed that there are no objections to the agenda, and we will continue on to the next order of business. The next order of business is the review of the minutes. Does anybody have any edits or corrections for the November minutes? Hearing no corrections or edits, it's assumed that there are no objections and the minutes are approved as written. We now move to the next order of business, and that will be old business items. And the only old business item we have is over the TC in Aesthetics program. But I do believe that we aren't quite ready to hear about that yet this month either. There is a sort of point of order that I'm going to bring up. We had some discussion on how to delay talking about this until how we were going to delay talking about this to another time period and the proper way to table something. And last month, it was suggested that when you table something, you do not have to put a timeline on it. The reason for that is if you table something, you're going to delay it to become the very next action item on the same meeting. So tabling something actually just delays it on to the exact same meeting that we're in. The correct terminology is that we needed to postpone the aesthetics program, and when you do that, you do need to put a timetable on it. So do we have an update on the aesthetics program, or do we need to have a motion to postpone it till the next meeting?
So it will need to be postponed. The key reason why we're doing that is because we're not going to do just aesthetics. We want to ping the funding formula as much as we can. And so part of that will include broadening it to a skin care specialist who is also doing learning content in electrolysis in addition to the aesthetics. And so we'll need more time to flesh that out. So it's still another whole piece that's not ready yet. So even postponing it till next time is, I would almost vote to remove it from the agenda and we can reintroduce it. I mean, it's not going to be ready next time either.
How about we postpone it to March? And then if we need to further postpone it, we can do it in the March meeting.
Well, will there be meetings before March?
The next meeting before March is the February meeting. We do not have a meeting in January.
Okay, let's postpone to February.
Okay.
And that way, if we're ready in February, then it can be considered then versus waiting till March just in case. So.
Okay, do I have a motion to postpone the aesthetics program review until February, the February meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Right. Let me open up the chat here. So this is to postpone the aesthetics program. And I'd like you to vote for this in the chat. Yay to postpone, nay to talk about it now, but there's not going to be much to talk about. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes/yays have it, and we will postpone the aesthetics program to February. And if we need to postpone it again, then we can do it then. So that's the end of old business. Now we will move on to new business. And the first couple of items of new business have to do with two new programs, both electrical power line worker technology programs. And we'll start off with the CP. So do I have a presenter for those two programs?
That'll be me. That'll be me.
All right. Let me do this real quick. Make sure you're spotlighted. Okay, you may begin.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen just to make this visible. So the Business and Industry Center has been running the H-Volt program. I'm sure many of you have heard of the H-Volt electrical line worker. It's been operated at the Business and Industry Center as a non-credit program. It has proven to be very successful. We have many more students than we can ever fill the spots for those students. It has run out of funding. And so in collaboration with the Business and Industry Center, Dr. Pro and the industry partners, we're proposing to transition this to the for-credit side. And, you know, ideally that's a great model where if you can prove it non-credit, you can transition it to for-credit. That's a great space to be able to achieve that goal. So we're excited. We've worked with Ashley Henry Serrano to kind of develop have all of the materials ready that need to go because there's the letter of intent and all of that. But what this would include is the for-credit side of what they were doing non-credit. So it would be first a certificate of proficiency that would include what's called an NCCER core. That's a very industry standard where they can earn a certification in the very core knowledge of safety. They earn their OSHA 10. It's specific to construction. It's specific to the electrical line worker. So it'll focus on the exact learning that they need. Math, hand tools, you name it, all of that is included and it's very applied for the learner. Then introduction to the power industry, and then the high voltage line worker, which is all of the hands-on, you're climbing the poles during your high aversion and all of that. So this would be proposed to be 20 credit hours, and that matches exactly with what's required for them to attain those skills. It's kind of down to a science on how long it took for them to see the students could successfully attain those skills to be safe. And so we've translated that to a CP. So we propose a new CP in the electrical line worker technology.
Do I have a motion to open to discussion?
I'll open to discussion. Des Jordan.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right. If there are no objections, so ordered. All right. Any questions? Dr. Kramers. So this is all stuff we have faculty already for, correct? Okay. Basically, that was my only question. Do I have any other questions from the rest of the group? If not, do I have a motion to close discussion and begin a vote?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, I have a second. I have a couple of seconds. So I will now open the chat for a vote on the CP in electrical power line worker technology, which for our chat purposes, I am going to abbreviate quite a bit so I don't have to type it all out. Vote yay in the chat if you are in favor of moving this program up to the up to SAC. Vote nay if you're opposed. Who made the initial motion?
I did.
Dr. Kramers? Thank you. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and we will be moving this CP program forward. All right, Dr. Kramers, if you would now tell us about the TC program.
Okay, so the TC, let me share this as well. The TC builds on the CP so that it is stackable, which is of course very important as we know. What to stack it to is what is required in industry. So when you go out and look for a job to be an electrical power line worker, now you are required to have a CDL license to be able to drive the bucket truck. And that's brand new, fairly new, that it has to be the Class A. You can't get around doing a shortened version. So they need the full Class A CDL licensure. So we went ahead and made the TC, the person that really is not doing just the power line CP, they can go ahead and continue on to get their TC so that they are ready to be hired, which would mean they would earn their CDL license in addition to all of the skills necessary to be the line worker. And again, this was all with feedback with the industry partners, and we have there's either 4 or 5 industry support letters to this point already. So it would include the same 3 courses that the students that take CDL are required, the legal requirements, the operation tractor trailer, and then the pre-trip to be able to take the state driving test. So it would be a TC of 38 credit hours. That's what we would propose.
Okay. Do I have a motion to open the floor to discussion?
I'll once again open it up for discussion. Debbie Desjardins.
And a second?
I'll second.
Without objection, so ordered. Of course, my question is almost pretty much always, do we have the courses covered by current faculty, or will we hire new faculty?
Current faculty. So we just had already hired a second because the growth in CDL was always a wait list, and your maximum is 12 students. So we recently hired the lead CDL faculty that came from industry, and he's been there for a couple months now in place. So it would be supported with what we have.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion to move for a vote?
I'll move to vote. Debbie Desjardins.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. I've opened up a vote for the TC in electrical power line worker technology in the chat. Vote yay if you're in favor, vote nay if opposed. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. And we will also move the TC forward to SAC.
Thank you, committee.
All right, what does that say? Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry, I got an extra pop-up of something and this. No, there's something that showed up in chat like several seconds ago. I don't know why it's popping up now. Okay. Next order of business is the ADHE viability report. Do I have someone to present for that?
Hey, Chris, I don't know if Dr. DePro joined, but she had sent a message earlier asking if we could move that and the report to the end of the agenda.
Well, we are at the end of the agenda.
Oh, okay.
I'd already put it at the end of the agenda because I figured we probably want to get the programs done first if we had a guest to the committee.
That makes sense. Okay.
Okay, I guess we'll wait a moment.
She said she'd be about 20 minutes and she sent the email at 3:05. So it might be about 5 minutes or so.
All right. Well, let's see if there's anything else in the agenda that we can do. So I'm gonna. I'm sorry. You have your hand raised, Dr. Kramer?
Yes, I just wanted to be sure it was okay to, if the committee would want to consider, quite a bit of the viability falls in, SOTAPs.
Mhm.
So, I know Dr. DePro had said that if I wanted to share anything as far as discussion on, kind of our evaluation of that I could do that. I could wait till she comes on, or I could kind of start talking through some for SOTAPs, and then she can add from there, whatever would be the will of the committee.
So this is this is from the viability report.
Correct.
Okay, then we will move on to the ADHE viability report. We'll have you start it off and then Dr. DePro can finish it off.
Okay, that's great. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again.
Okay.
So many of the programs that are under discussion for viability issues are within SOTAPs. And so you can kind of see we've got electronics, some of the manufacturing, the automated manufacturing, construction, some computer science, drafting, HVAC, and two from CAMI, dietary management and resort management. So after carefully looking through and talking with the faculty in each of these areas, they have to give a response back to higher ed. And so we're working on a shared document of discussion to share for her review and ADHE discussion. We've been doing a lot of work, and some of it's already been presented through several committees of reconfigurations. Industry has moved forward, but our programs in the tech sciences in many places have not. And so the applied electronics, the automated manufacturing and machining program will all be reconfigured as an advanced manufacturing program that has an umbrella of an electrical systems track and a mechanical systems track. This will be presented as a reconfiguration to SAC committee. This should be a fantastic realignment or alignment to what industry demands are. And it will take care of much of this that we're seeing as they're currently designed as these separate siloed standalone. When they go in industry, you're going on two tracks. You're either electrical, where you're learning robotics, PLC of program logic computers. You're learning the electrical circuits and electricity, or you're very much on the mechanical side where you're working with the CNC machines, the machining lathes or tool parts. So it's a very distinct pathways of which the student can choose. So yes, Chris.
I seem to remember that being part of something that was discussed last academic year, where certain programs just need to be put under a different umbrella,
Yep.
and that will, in general, help them survive, help them be considered viable.
Well, and in this instance, we're actually taking away some of the standalone associate's degrees. We're going to see the same thing for HVAC. Not many people want to do an associate's degree in heating and air conditioning. They're in reality, they're getting their 2 years to get their EPA certification and get the training to get certified to go out and get to work. If they do want to get their associates, it should be in the general technology with the HVAC emphasis. But currently we have all of these standalones where they're still getting these individualized, electronics or drafting or HVAC when, the majority of students are not taking that path. If they want to go forward, again, they're doing this general technology with an emphasis area. So that kind of covers those areas. April Hearn is working on the computer options to help make them stackable. We have situations in computer science, business, and IT where the CP is viable, the AAS is viable, but the TC is not in the middle. And so that, screams red flag, something's not stackable, that there's an issue there. So she's working on those for the computer science areas. Our construction management program has been inactive. Oh, there's April. The construction management program, I was just talking about you, and the computer science programs. With that one, it's inactive while we reconfigure. We're not quite there yet on what that will look like because we're rebuilding an advisory committee who is in the construction industry with industry experts. We've met with UALR because that's who we pipeline our program into on what makes the most sense for that program. So stay tuned. That'll be a future reconfiguration where we'll be presenting that when that is in a much better place than what it is now. Yes, Chris.
Yeah, if you'll say Dr. DePro really quickly again, let's see if you can summon her too.
Oh, is Dr. Pro on now?
No, I was saying that because you said April and then she appeared. I was saying,
Oh.
maybe if you say Dr. DePro, she'll appear.
Like magic.
Yes, that's right. Let's see, for cosmetology, we actually deleted that program, cosmetology instructor, by rules and regs of the Department of Health. The program is designed where you can only have three students in that program at a time. So it will never meet viability by its very design and requirements from the state. So that has been deleted as an option. They can, those that are interested have many options around our area that they can still get that done, but that keeps us off the viability list. For drafting and design, we're working towards that probably becoming under the umbrella of the general technology with an emphasis in drafting and design, but it also could be a reconfiguration when we do the construction technology reconfiguration. So that is being worked on as well currently. We found out that the drivetrain specialist for automotive, the CP was not viable. They've had at least 50 students that they can account for that have finished that CP. They've never done the form and turned it in because they've never told the students to fill out the form and turn it in. So we're on a viability list for 3 years of no forms being turned in. So that will be corrected now that they know that. And, sometimes it's as simple as that because they said that almost every student that they've had over the past 2 semesters have earned that. So there's that one. And then resort management is another one you'll see highlighted at the bottom that will be deleted. That was built in advance of Saracen Casino being built. They anticipated that there would be a mad rush to resort management program. And in collaboration with Renee Smith and Cami, it never came to fruition. And so they just don't have students. There's no one registered. There's no active student in that program at all. So that one will be most likely recommended to be deleted. And then dietary management, that one will be probably inactivated for a teach out, possibly a reconfiguration. We'll be updating on that one. So I mentioned the legal secretary, that one has been marked inactive. Actually, didn't we delete that one? That I need to update that. That was deleted because that is a career that's no longer hired. Industry doesn't utilize that position anymore, and I'm going to update that document. And April, do you want to talk about any of the business IT ones as a quick update on plans or discussions? And I can scroll up or down for anything you need me to.
The digital marketing and insurance, both, they're brand new. I will say, I think digital marketing is taking off and I think insurance is not. So that's probably a separate conversation. In our SOTEP's leadership meeting, you mentioned a potential, like, is apprenticeship an option? And I actually wrote that down. So I'm curious now. Also, my dog and cat are playing right now. So if you hear a cat scream and run, they're actually playing. No one's being tortured in this house. The cybersecurity one is funny to me. I feel like we have a ton of students doing that right now. So that's the one that I don't like. I've got the information for all the others. That's the one I haven't dwindled down yet. So.
And I wonder, April, if it's like what we've seen in the drivetrain for automotive, they just haven't filled out the forms. It very well could be that. If it's stackable, then most likely forms. So
it is stackable. So that was kind of in my, I need to go back and, is this, we're just not filling out the paperwork? Is this, is that where we're at? So, but that's about the only one that I was not finished kind of digging into.
Okay. So, the good news is we've either worked to inactivate, realign, figure out what the problem is so we can have forms filled out where they need to be filled out, and reconsider some of these tech programs that have just sat for a very long time. And then, April working on the business IT piece of it. So I feel good about the direction that we're going so that this will start turning around and we'll stop seeing this same viability issue that we've seen happening with the tech sciences. I'm curious if there's any questions at all.
Do we have any questions? How long will it take them to, on the drivetrain when, get these forms in?
Well, let's just say there's a little fire underneath them. So hopefully here before the semester ends. I think it was a big aha for a lot because I think, until they see the numbers, that's why data is so important. You assume things are getting done, and not really realizing until something like this pops up and they're, then everybody's scratching their head going, but no, we have tons of students that do that. Well, even if you have to set aside a day where they go into the computer lab and you have them apply for that graduation, when you give them time to get that done, because some of the tech sciences, they're so hands-on, they're out in the automotive lab, so getting them to stop and just say, make sure you're going to fill out your graduation paperwork. It's important.
Right. Do we have any other comments or questions?
And I wish Dr. DePro was on hopefully she'll still be, maybe that'll help be the blingy call that makes her come.
Yeah. You say your name 3 times quickly.
Yeah, and tap my heels together. Dr. DePro, Dr. DePro, Dr. DePro. Sounds like. Of course, it didn't work. She's got the two new little miniature schnauzers. Maybe we should make little bit puppy barking sounds.
I'm curious, Catherine, what are you working on?
I am dividing up cheese curds because I'm serving as an emergency sub for a class tonight.
All right, okay.
I'm so glad you asked because I was going to ask.
I was curious.
It's for a mozzarella and ricotta class.
Okay, thank you.
I've been sitting here watching that myself. It's like, well, do I have a motion to table this? And let me go on to a different order of business until Dr. DePro gets here.
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second Debbie Desjardins.
All right. All in favor, just say aye on out loud. We'll not do the chat.
Hi.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to order of business number 6, questions and next steps. Do we have any questions or next steps to discuss? Just about the meeting in general. Okay, if not, I will move on to order of business number 7. CQI evaluations. What went well today and what could have been improved? Well, what went well is we were doing pretty well on time for a bit. Unfortunately, we were doing too well on time, better on time than what Dr. DePro, I'm afraid, had planned. Seeing that we got done with all the other orders of business before she could get here. Anybody else have anything that they want to add?
The presenters were well prepared. That's why we were really ahead of schedule, I thought. So
Yeah.
doing good.
Yep. And thank you.
I have a question. Do I have our membership? Is everyone listed correctly on our minutes? So we've had several people leave. We have some vacancies, and I'm not sure if I'm listing everyone correctly.
I think everything is correct. I have not received an update on filling in any vacancies. I mean, for instance, we are still short from the vacancies we had at the middle of last year. I see Dr. DePro is here.
I'm so sorry, guys. I double booked. Ashley was with me. Y'all blame me. I'm hoping that you guys went to agenda pieces that didn't need any of either Ashley or myself.
Yes, and we have now just finished the last agenda item, so I will see you next year.
Okay, good.
No, okay, no, I went ahead and covered the other thing. You were actually the last main agenda items, but Dr. Kramers has covered the SOTAPs part.
Beautiful.
So if you, we will now go back to new business and the rest of the ADHE viability report. Let me go ahead and spotlight you.
Sorry we are late. Ashley's coming. I wanted to just give you guys a brief update on the viability report that comes every year from ADHE. I'll share my screen. And I think Dr. K has probably talked about much of this. Let me make it a little bigger. I don't know if you think this is good news or bad news, but the good news is I see no new programs on this list from last year, and some have complete explanations. So Dr. K, did you talk about applied electronics and what we've done there?
I did.
Excellent. Okay. And then automated manufacturing systems technology. I think you've got that probably on the mend. And hopefully we will make it to the minimum numbers that are needed for ADHE construction. We turned the valve off on that one. And we'll do our best to rebuild that later. Cosmetology instruction, again, inactive on that one. And then legal secretary was deleted. Digital marketing, they'll be working on that, but that's a really new program. It's kind of ugly that they put it on the list.
Yeah, I'm kind of offended it's on the list. Like, our first graduates won't be until May.
I know it. Yeah, I
Tell 'em I
agree. I
said
was a
I'm
little
offended
offended
too.
by that myself. We put it on the books in August of 2021, according to them, and then they managed to put it on the non-viable list. When they tell you in the regulations, you get 3 years to get a program up and running. So if you like, we can report back, you didn't give us 3 years. Because that's in the policy, because it takes a while to get a program up and running. It just does. This one, nursing assistant, that's certified nursing assistant, that program lost its accreditation. And then Talea brought that all back last year. So they're sort of scoring us based on 2008's approval date, when in reality it went dormant and was never really turned off. So it looked like we had 0 graduates, which we did, but we weren't even marketing or recruiting graduates for our students for that program. And Talea is aware. And what we need to do is bolster up our marketing and our partnerships with nursing homes, I think, to get that up, because the demand for those jobs is off the chain. And I think that's a harsh judgment on their part on that one, much like the digital marketing one. That was a little offensive on that. So that's where we are. We're not required to communicate with ADHE on this, but eventually they are supposed to come back and say at some point in time, hey, you can't keep having these programs with no graduates, because the theory is you're spending money on faculty and facilities with no return on that investment. However, we're doing fine, and we're between what SOTAPS is doing and Allied Health, we'll be able to bolster those back up. And I think we need to maybe think about some clever ways to market them in the sense of insurance and digital marketing, April, because I just can't imagine that we don't need more digital marketers out there or in the insurance industry. So maybe it's internships or partnerships or something to get the word out. I don't know, something we probably ought to go talk to Tim about in that context. Okay, so I'm going to stop there on that one. We were required to make a Board of Trustees report on program review-ish of sorts. Let me find that one. I'll show you what I wrote. What they send us, and April was involved in this as well. Let me share my screen. After you've had a program on the books for 5 years, you're required by the Board of Trustees to come back and tell them, how's it going? Well, 5 years ago is the anniversary date of joining the U of A system. So we've never had to do this up until this point in time because we've been in that 5-year window. And these are the new programs that they had in their records, if you can see that there. CP and medical office technology, digital media production, and then the AS and information health technology. And I see chatting going on. There we go. And so that's what they asked us to report on. And with that, we also received a cover letter from Dr. Bobbitt. Again, just keeping you as informed as possible. And he says, right here, please review the list and provide a short summary of how these programs are performing today, include whether they are meeting enrollment and budgetary expectations on the campus, include a history of enrollment and budgetary numbers for the programs. If it's not meeting expectations, please provide plans for improving or discontinuing it. That's what the system says. Well, and that's harsh, right? But then again, if you start something and it's not going well, what they're asking you is to manage it, right? Just do something about it. And so I'm not offended by this. And what I hope you see is that they're trying to be respectful of what we're doing and that we are being respectful of the taxpayers. So I crafted a little report here and put together the history of the AS and health information technology, which is not an AS, it's an applied, Associate of Applied Science. It evolved according to April, Bryce Miller, and Talea Johnson. It had over 90 credit hours in the program when it came from UAMS. This is one that we inherited from them. It's a great program, but they reconfigured it and have recently gotten all of the accreditation done, et cetera. And so recent events, enrollment and graduation headcount, you can start to see here's their enrollment. It has slipped a little bit. That's pandemic, I think, results. But in 21, 22, and prior to that, they're graduating 27, 26 type students. And so I think we're in great shape there. So I'm going to stop. Chris, you got a question?
Were you sharing something? I didn't see it on my screen.
Duh. Because I didn't share it. You should have yelled at me sooner. I apologize. So here we go. So there's your head counts for the 12 semesters for HIT. Y'all got to reach out and slap me.
I'm still not seeing it.
No?
Is anybody else?
I'm seeing it now.
I
I wasn't, but I was just then.
Oh, there it
Never
is.
seen it again.
There we go. Is that better?
I think Teams is just being wonky because I've only seen about half of y'all's faces. But if I switch to the together mode, and if y'all have never done that, it's fun. I can see your faces, but if I switch it off, then your square screens are blank, like you've turned your camera
The
off.
camera's off. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
I thought
Teams
I'd
is
shared
playing
it,
with
but
us
it may
today.
have just said I'm not doing that today. It's raining.
I can see it right now.
Okay, good. Thanks, Caleb.
I think it's because somebody has Dr. DePro and Chris spotlighted. And so like their faces are bigger than everybody else's. So they have
I'm
like,
going to exit the spotlight. Is that better?
look. You didn't like being in the spotlight?
I noticed that.
I didn't even know
Teams,
Spotlight was a thing.
I've noticed that Teams seems to not like you sharing something and then trying to switch over to something else. It'll
Yeah.
also just switch back to your face instead of the new thing you're trying to show.
Teams is moody. So here I had a section on faculty expenses. So it's total faculty expenses for that unit plus fringe. And then the future plans, for example, they did a CP and a TC recently that was reconfigured out of the Associate of Applied Science. So I think that will be good. and doesn't require any new faculty or anything like that. We're working on our NC Sarah authorization. We've got one little hoop we got to jump through for ADHE once we turn in our application. And then CP and medical office technology is going to actually go away and become the CP and HIT because it's essentially the same thing. The numbers are fine, but the future plans is to phase it out because the HIT program has all of the new accredited and vetted coursework in it, whereas this does not. And so the Bryce and Talea would like to evolve to that. And then the CP and digital media production, it's going great guns. And the graduated student number was 19 last year. So it's doing fine. It is. And April, correct me if I'm wrong, we got the AAS and the TC, and this is a derivative of those, and it's stackable. And so it's going fine. And that's what I
Yes.
wrote in here is that our future plans are to stay the course with its faculty and that it will go through the ADHE program review process in 26, 27, but that's a ways out. So Dr. Bobbitt wrote back, liked the report, appreciated the report, and that thought it was understandable, looked good, and thought we were doing a nice job. So I got feedback that afternoon when I turned it in. And it's our first one to turn in. And special thanks goes to April, Dean Kramers, Dean Johnson, Bryce Miller, Anna Hunt, and Jen Blaylock and Caleb for all the data that went into that and the history, because I didn't know the history of the AS and health information technology. And technically we don't have that anymore. It's an Associate of Applied Science. And all the good paperwork was done on that some time ago. So Chris, I think I'm going to be quiet now and try not to screw up teams any more than I already have today.
All right.
That's what I've got. Yeah.
Do I have any questions for Dr. DePro?
Huh.
Do I have any congratulations for Dr. DePro? Seeing
Oh. Woo! Yeah. Thank you guys. You know, on a happier note, would you like to see all the programs that are viable? Right? That's a
Sure.
happier note, right?
The ones not in red, that's,
Yeah.
you know.
Exactly. Well, here's the big list. Did you guys look at the big list earlier without me? Let me make it a little bigger. Because everybody see my spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Chris, let me know. Can you see it?
I can see it.
Okay, good. So yeah, if you look at the red, that's the programs you saw on the short list, and they're in alphabetical order by degree name here, and I can change that up however you like, but look at all of the ones that are in great shape. You know, that new chancellor would love to see those that are our bellwether programs. Let's get more students in here, keep them, right? And get them out. And those programs that we know the community needs, like advanced manufacturing, let's figure it out. They want construction management too. We'll try to bring that back. But like, look at all the culinary arts. There's all your digital stuff. 12, 12, 12, 9, 4, you know. Here's a good one. Bam, 209, you know, on average for general studies. Free healthcare is really popular, doing a great job. Truck driving's coming along, you know, gosh, truck driving companies want us to produce like 5,000 times that. We'll get there eventually. And Surge Tech, I learned this morning, you know, we had to take a pause on that one because we lost our faculty members and it's really hard to find them. Talea has 70 applicants in surgical technology alone. 70, yes. And we can only take 24. And because that's all the space and the clinicals that we, you know, because they don't do surgeries everywhere, right? It's not like not like a nurse where you can put them at the children's clinic. You know, this is where we actually cut people open. And they're really excited, the new director, in sifting through all those applications and getting out, filtering out 24 out of that batch. And so this is going great. April, what you got? There's another one. There's April's program, 57 in the AS.
What is a BC?
That's a great question. That's like that powder you used to take, you know?
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like the welding number at the very bottom, it says BC and shows like a bazillion graduates, and then it
I
shows.
know. There's another one right there for
Like, what is
tractor
that?
trailer servicing. There was a moment in ADHE's history where if your CP had less than like 12 hours in it, they were going to call that a basic certificate. And then that's what BC stands for. It's not before Christ or, you know, or a BC powder that you took in college because you wanted to see if it really did make you choke, because it does.
Because it does.
It's gross. Don't do it. But that they decided to change that to a BC all of a sudden, and then they changed their mind, but then they didn't go back and change the data. That was the best I could get out of them, because when I saw this list last year, I was, what the hell is that? Because that is not even discussed anywhere in ADHE's board policy book whatsoever. I kept looking for it. And, but that welding, that's the CP in welding, right? Which we turn a whole bunch of people in and out of. Exactly right. I think that's on there a couple of times. There's another one. There's medication, because medication assistant is like 7 or 8 hours. It's a short-term 8-week get in and out. It's kind of a gateway into the health professions for people. Tons of jobs out there for that. Any thoughts, comments, questions about the good news, right? Stop. Okay, Chris, I really am done now.
All right. So if you have no more questions, we are through all the agenda items, and therefore, unless there are objections, this meeting is adjourned. Go off, have holiday food, drink warm beverages. See you in February.
Well done, Chris.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
See you guys.